once again to discuss things.
It is I, the one, the only.
This is the future where liberals won. And on that note, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentleman Character Discussions. I am Super2. Joining me today is...
A geek for fun.
Indeed. And today we're talking about Kate Kane. Because we did two videos on rainbowy characters from comics, and so I decided to go with the gay one. Now, legit, I was like looking for more rainbow themed or esque characters, and then just an image of Kate Kane with a gay pride flag popped up. I'm like, okay, it'll do. I really wanted to keep the trend going.
With this is the one rainbow that is stronger than both the White Lantern ring and the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah. So, how much exposure do you have to Kate Kane?
Very little. But from multiple different sources. So it's weird because I've got a wide range of exposure to her, but also each one of those exposure very little. I first introduced her when she popped up in Batman Incorporated, and then when she comes into James Tynion's Detective Comics run, she's a big part in that. And then I watched the Arrow episode, crossover CW thing where she premiered on that, which is to set up her own series. So I've got those three different avenues and random comics where she pops her head in now and again.
Okay, so this will be interesting because everyone that's watching this that really likes Kate Kane is going to hate both of us, because that means neither of us have read the Rucka Run, which is the book for Kate Kane. That's the thing where she was properly introduced and they really made her a big outstanding character and all this stuff. And I've heard nothing but good things about that whole run. I've just never gotten around to it. It's so weird for me. I really like Kate Kane as a character from what I've read. I loved Bennett's run on the book, the Rebirth run that lasted 18 issues. I thought that was fantastic. And I liked her well enough in what I saw in Detective Comics. She has very, very little to do with Batman Inc. from what I remember.
Yeah, it's just an issue.
Yeah, and then it's funny, she has almost nothing to do with Batman Inc., and yet she's in the movie that's kind of sort of adapting Batman Inc. Yeah, she's an interesting character. For me, though, the biggest exposure I have to Kate Kane isn't even proper Kate Kane. It's Bombshell's Kate Kane, and that's definitely my favorite version of the character.
Right. Because that whole universe, I've never actually read the book, but just going to any comic book store and you see all the merchandise, is Batwoman's just as prominent as Supergirl and Wonder Woman and Harley, so I assume she's a decent big player in that book.
I've said this before. In my opinion, Bombshells is probably the best Justice League run in a comic series. Morrison's obviously the classic, kind of the quintessential Justice League run. But as far as just grand epic stuff, spoiler alert, but the first volume ends with what's her name? Feora, is it? The General Zod's female...
Yes.
Yeah, okay. No Zod, it's just her. It ends with her using magic and crazy Nazi science to turn herself into a female Doomsday and try to kill Supergirl. That's how that first volume ended, and it's fucking amazing. That whole book was just great, and Batwoman was a huge part of it, and just was kind of the emotional core of it, and it was just a really cool series where she was kind of she was kind of like the hero off in the fight kind of thing. You know, she'd write letters to Maggie Sawyer, and there'd be like kind of she ran into Renee Montoya in the middle of the war, and they had like a thing. So there's kind of like this relationship drama, you know, just that like old flame kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, it was Bombshells and Kate Kane in that book was just absolutely fantastic, and she still has my favorite line of the entire series. How about a Justice League of our own? And it's such a great moment when it comes up in the book, and it's been my screensaver on my laptop for years, and I absolutely adore that series.
Yeah, she's very much. My big like thing with her has always been I've appreciated her existence because I've always been a fan of in like the Batman world and in Gotham. I've always been a fan of Batman inspiring people without intending or having any influence on them. Like really, there's a relationship between Bruce and Kate Kane, like familial, but they really don't know each other like at all. And the fact that she just gets inspired by seeing Batman fight crime, and then, I have just as much resources as the Wayne family do. I could just do this. That like really helps speak to the message of Batman without making her a psychic. It makes her like an equally important figure in Gotham that just so happens to be continuing the message that Bruce was doing, but in her own way with her own morals and a much different set of ethics than Bruce does.
And see, that's where like the Bennett run comes in, and that's kind of what her whole run was about, is that idea of Kate Kane kind of doing it on her own and in her own way. Because I think modernly you can say that Batman is a like take on trauma, you know, on like trying to find strength through trauma, trying to overcome great tragedy, right?
Yeah.
That seems to be a fairly common thread between a bunch of writers in the last 20 years or so. Batwoman, at least from Margaret Bennett's perspective, her kind of take on the character is Batwoman is Kate Kane's reaction to addiction. Because this is a thing that I've heard. I don't know if it's like a diagnosable fact or if it's just kind of like a tendency that people have. But an addict will chase one high to the next, to the next, to the next. So you're an alcoholic, you kick alcohol, you go to drugs, you kick drugs, you go to sex, you kick sex, it just keeps going and going and going. And so in the first issue of that Batwoman run in Rebirth, there's just this great moment where one of Kate's exes is like kind of yelling at her or something, and it's carried over with you know how comics do with like the narration bubble kind of carrying over other art. She's yelling at her and she goes, "You go ahead, Kate Kane, you go from one addiction to the next, trading one for another and another, but one day something's going to come around and sober you up." And on that word up, you do the page flip, and it's Kate Kane walking into an alley and seeing Batman for the first time. And it's just such a great, powerful moment. And that idea of taking on the mantle of the Bat as a way to deal with addiction is really interesting, because part of the process for addiction is to like quote unquote accept a higher power, and so the Bat is kind of Kate Kane's higher power, only instead of accepting it, she becomes it. And the rest of the run, like at one point in that series, not gonna get into spoilers too much, but someone tries to destroy the Bat for Kate Kane by destroying the symbol of the Bat for Gotham, by spreading disease through bats. Just like a horrible plague that was going to be spread through bats that have been infected with it and were released into Gotham. just this really, really interesting take there.
Yeah, and it's something that this whole idea of like the symbol of the bat being something that people can aspire to and take it into their own ways, I think is maybe this was intentional because I haven't read the Bennett run, so seeing that getting picked up in Tynan's run, basically when Kate Kane basically does something, I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but she does something that gets her ostracized from the rest of the Bat family, and orphan Cassandra Kane removes the bat symbol from her chest, which is, you're not worthy of this, this means something, this is special, because although she does look up to it and she does respect it, she doesn't live with it with Bruce and the rest of the Bat family in quite the same way. She's a bit more on her own, even as in more recent years the Bat family has become more inclusive and everyone's in the Bat family in some way. I feel like where Jason Todd's in it for some reason, like
and Superman's in the Bat family.
yeah it's just Kate Kane has somehow managed to be associated with it, but she always does feel like she's the outsider there in the group, especially because she's got such a military background, and there's so much of her is wrapped up with the idea of like the gun and lethal force. Even if she herself isn't actively doing that, it's just around her background. It does give an interesting dynamic. Is okay, yes, Batman inspires people, but how do you manage that? How do you take people who maybe have their own ideas of what to do with a symbol, which very much like religion is, you're going to get splinter cells and splinter groups of people having different interpretations. And I think that's very interesting where she has that, because she almost feels very spiritually the one in Gotham who's the most like Golden Age Batman, where she goes on a lot more supernatural shit.
Yeah, I read Hydrology in the New 52. I don't know if you read that one or not. That was like, I think 6 or 7 issues or something like that. And it had to do with like a ghost that was killing people and shit, and she had to get the ghost spirit to be at rest, kind of thing.
Let's see again, because that's, you have this character, not only who's like just representative is such a big thing with her. She's such a high profile. Batwoman is a very important name, even if it hasn't been used for decades. To give that to someone who's not only Jewish but is also a lesbian, you get to have that, but you also get to explore some more avenues with her, being able to do shit Batman isn't allowed to do anymore. In very much how I always champion, Dick Grayson can be fun Batman. I think Kate Kane can be supernatural Batman.
Yeah, I guess I could see it that way. I guess because the Bennett run doesn't have a ton to do with the supernatural, it is more like Dr. Crane's kind of involved, and there's more super science, not supernatural by a comic terms, let me put it that way. And then I'm trying to think of Bombshells, and like Bombshells has this whole section with like the Lazarus Pit and Renee and her kind of having like a surrogate son in that universe's version of Jason Todd. But other than that, there's really not a ton going on with Kate Kane and like the supernatural in the stuff I've read. So I find that interesting that you say that.
And it's kind of come up in I guess the live action take, in the Arrowverse crossover and stuff, is kind of hinted out like her version of Gotham maybe is a bit more out there like that to stand
More
out
cult?
from. Yeah, compared to like, because in that universe, Green Arrow is just like diet Batman. So if you're gonna do a different show in that universe, you do need a kind of a hook. So Gotham is kind of like the city of shadows and demons and like the Amadeus Arkham's ghosts and all that kind of shit that she deals with, which I think is an interesting take.
That's a cool idea. I don't know if anything's done like Amadeus Arkham's Ghost that I've seen. That sounds... Are you just saying that randomly, or is that in that episode?
No, that's just me pulling bullshit.
Oh, man. Like, I'm already sold. Go write your fan fiction right now. I can't wait. When update?
Thanks for the review.
Yeah. You know, we've had people ask if Geeky Gentleman will do fan fiction reviews. I'm just like, no, I can't. I know there's good stuff, but there's so much bad. I just can't.
Gentleman, lol Sonic.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. That's an interesting idea though of her being more the supernatural kind of occult side of the Bat family, dealing with that bullshit. It makes me think of that old Tumblr post of like Captain America. Okay, Avengers, is there anything else on the docket? Blade, can I please get some help with the vampires? There are so many. No, meeting adjourned. So like I just imagine that's why she keeps like her distance from the Bat family, because they refuse to help her with all the supernatural shit now. That's funny. So one thing I do know is that like DC got kind of a lot of flack because in the comic they were really gearing up to and just about to have Renee and Kate get married, and then they ended up backing off because they felt it was too controversial. Which is weird to me that like they're willing to have the controversy of a gay character in a gay relationship, but they're not willing to show a marriage. Like that's where the people that hated that were gonna draw the line. I'll read this gay character who's a positive role model, but God help you if you show them marrying. It's such a weird thing.
It seems to be. I don't like honestly. I don't even think it's like it's a lesbian, it's LGBTQ marriage. I think it's legitimately they just don't like marriages in general. Because for that whole period, we're just like, oh, I don't know, Superman and Lois can't get married, that sucks. Or you go over the Marvel, and they fucking went so hard since they fucking started the marriage with Mary Jane, they've been trying to get rid of that shit. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand why marriage is suddenly, you can't tell good stories with this character, especially because comics are so focused on keeping the same love interests anyway, because they're so iconic. Like, KK and Renee Montoya, that's pretty obviously, that's the most famous relationship I've heard she's had. That seems to have gone through many mediums. Yes, she may have different love interests like Superman and Batman and Spider-Man do, but I think that if you're going to stick with one, that's probably the one you go with. And why... You can still do drama with marriage. In hell, you can probably do even more drama with marriage. Like, I don't understand why there's such a big line there. And I legitimately think, just because how stupid the comic industry is, they weren't even thinking about, this will piss bigots off. They were thinking of, no, people can't relate to marriage characters. Because that's always the fucking line.
I don't know. That's a weird point. To be fair, I wasn't reading the run, and I kind of have only heard of the like controversy vicariously through others. I haven't like experienced it myself, but I know DC got like pissed a lot of people off by doing that. And so yeah, it does make me wonder if maybe it's a bit of both. Like, yeah, having a gay character is one thing, but having like a marriage, because it probably would have been... I'm really racking my brain to think if it's happened before or since. Has a Big Two same-sex marriage happened?
The only one I can... I guess you didn't even count them as big two, but like, are Midnighter and Apollo married?
Yeah, but those are like independent is the thing.
They got enfolded in, so I don't even think that's really.
That's been folded into DC or something?
Yeah, that he turns up in Grayson.
I didn't even know that. I thought they were still their own thing. Yeah, okay, I guess. I don't know, it's just maybe like that would have been the controversial step, is they didn't want to be the first ones to do it or something. I don't know, it seems like
I get that, again, we're trying to justify stupidity so hard here, because surely you want headlines, you want sales, we're the first of the big two to have a gay marriage. Like, fucking hell, that's a sell. That would get people reading the books.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to justify it. I'm just trying to think of, like, what was the possible thinking there? Like, that's the thing to me that just seems so odd, is have a gay character, but they can't get married. Like, why? That's so weird. And one thing I like really like about Kate Kane as a character from the stuff I've read. Again, I've not read everything. I've not read everyone's favorite thing. Also, but one thing I really like about her as a character, and particularly as an example of an LGBT character in comics, she's kind of a fuck up. like again, I'm basing a lot here on Bennett's take in the run, and that does kind of lead up. That does kind of end with hope and teases the idea of Renee and Kate trying again. But like that whole run, like Kate is just like left people in it left relationships just fucking burn the house down as she walks out, kind of thing. Is the impression you're left with. She just kind of ruins other people's, or had ruined other people's lives that she was in relationships with. And I really like that idea that she's like just a fuck up, and she doesn't necessarily have positive relationships. I think that's just it only works with a Bat character, right? Like, it's always got to just be awful for one reason or another. Dick Grayson constantly playing two redheads against one another. Jason Todd, just a fucking sad boy. That's... Once you got the really sad Bat character that can't seem to be happy, and that's their pathos. It's just there's a mood to it, you know?
Yeah, and that's something I think is a good, like, even just outside the relationship thing. If you're gonna say like Batman's big fatal flaw is he's too driven and he's too narrow-minded, and sometimes his unbreakable will ends up getting him in shit. You could say that for Kane, it's just that her uncertainty is what fucks her up. She's very hard to actually fully believe in herself to do something, and that's what is like the thing that, like, the complete opposite of Batman.
Yeah, I could see that, and that's the thing I really like about her is she almost just should be her own character with her own mantle and everything, but she adopts the Bat for a very, like, insecure reason, it seems. Like, she's trying to make it her own, but at the same time, why not just make something else? Or why not just make something to be her own? And there seems to be, like, a rooted sense of, I need something to force myself to live up to, because if I create it on my own, I won't follow through with it. And again, that's mainly me basing it off of the Bennett run. I don't know if that's really the case in the Rucka run.
Well, that feels, again, based off another run that isn't the Rucka run, is in the Detective Comics. That's very much the similar thing. Is she joins the whole, like, Gotham Knights idea with Tim Drake as like a boot camp for heroes, but it's very much if I make myself a leader and a figure of authority, it'll make me live up to that, because now I've got people who depend on me to be that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think Tinian and Bennett seem to share a pretty close take on the character, even if Bennett's just better at writing it. Like, I mean, Bennett's run spun out of the Tinian book. It came, like, the Batwoman Begins or something. Issue 1 or part 1 started in an issue of Detective. So that's just a thing. What else can we talk about with Kate Kane? How'd you like... What else has she been in besides the CW show and Batman Bad Blood?
Very little. I can, like, surprisingly, considering... Is she in DC Superhero Girls? You think that'd be an obvious one, but I don't think she is.
No, it's Barbara.
Yeah, she's not in much animation apart from Bad Blood. I guess it's just been, she's kind of come out in a time where DC is slowing down on the animated front a little bit, while also trying to... See, maybe you are getting something with the fear of controversy thing, because like if they really wanted to be bold and out there, they would plaster on everything. But they're being very hesitant with her, and I think it's precisely for the reason is you have a Bat character, and Batman's the most popular superhero in the world at the moment. You have that character's identity associated with someone who is LBGT. You're gonna get bigots going out, and DC should just say fuck them, but they're not going to do that, which is disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like, it's not that they haven't done her. I mean, she's definitely not the problem with Batman Bad Blood. That's just a bad movie. Oh, they put like 17 things in that bitch. The movie, not Kit Kane.
I don't even know what goes on in DC bombshells. Those girls could do what they like.
Yeah. I mean, she's got a baseball bat that, like, kind of acts as the utility belt because it just does everything. Like, sometimes it's a grenade launcher, sometimes it has, like, a grapple in it or something. It's pretty fucking sweet.
That's bad.
Yeah. No, it's not a grenade launcher. I'm wrong. It's actually just a bat, but she has exploding baseballs that she hits at people. And it's cool as shit.
She's not only is she better than Batman, she's also better than Bullseye.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. There's some stuff in there that's just it's so good. DC Bombshells is definitely worth some time. I've been thinking about maybe doing like a series on the channel or something that maybe only be like monthly, called like Reviewing the Run, and just do all of a comic run or something, because I'd love the chance to talk about Bombshells like that. But yeah, there's so much good in that book with Kate Kane. That book's just filled with so many great ass speeches, because that's what Margaret Bennett does really well, is soapboxes, and Kate's just got a million of them, and they're great, every single one of them. Even when it's just like narrative tissue to connect the stories together, it's just like, oh yeah, let me talk about the power of myth and legend about this red thread. Because they have to like navigate a labyrinth, and all they have with them is a baseball, so they're able to take the red stitches off and use it as thread to lead them, to make sure they don't get lost in the labyrinth. It's fucking great.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's so fucking neat. So yeah, I'm not sure. They definitely should put Kate Kane in more things. I'm a little disappointed that Batman Brave and the Bold never did anything with her, because that was on while she was like really rising to popularity, and like they did an episode with the the Kathy Batwoman, which is a completely different thing. What can you do?
Yes, that is one of the things is, I guess because we're probably never going to get a chance to talk about her on the channel ever again, is what do you think of technically Kathy Beagle legacy character, sort of, and like her relationship to the idea, like, I don't think this was conscious, but I kind of hope it is, that the fact that Batwoman was purely created to diffuse rumors that Batman and Robin were gay, and now the Batwoman now is just to show that Batwoman is gay. I think that's a really interesting thing.
Yeah, I don't really know. I've never read the comics with the original Batwoman or anything like that. I kind of only experienced it vicariously through Morrison when I didn't really have the proper knowledge to understand what he was going for. So I don't know if I have enough context to really answer that question. But you did make me think of another thing that like I kind of wanted to talk about, and I just forgot to bring it up. So one thing that I've always kind of been not disappointed, but I found it almost needless to the point where I wonder why it's even a thing. Why the fuck is she related to Bruce Wayne? That seems so unnecessary to me.
Yeah, I guess the only real thing is they want to justify the fortune and that she can have comparable resources to him. Like, it's not an inferior thing. Like, they both have limitless comic book money. But at the same time, you could have just made a separate, powerful family in Gotham. But I honestly think it was just like, well, we've got the Kane family name from Martha's side. We're gonna fucking...
Why did you say that name?
She's his mother's name. It's Batman's mother's name, and they've got the idea of, oh man, you fucking ruined my train of thought. Now I'm just thinking of Reeves.
Sorry.
It's alright. So they've got that name, and I genuinely think they were just like, you know what, we're gonna go Stanley style comic book name alliteration. We've got the family name. We don't have to make up a new one. And maybe that's it. They're just like, well, maybe it'd be contrived if we just made a new, powerful, rich family in Gotham just for them and did a Scott Snyder.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, anytime that you give Bruce Wayne family, I think it makes his whole situation weird. Because I mean, like, shit. That means he was. What the fuck does that say about Kate Kane's dad? It's like, oh,
he's an asshole.
Yeah, like, oh, your sister's son is now an orphan. Let the butler raise him. Like, what the fuck is up with that?
Her dad is legitimately a terrible person, though, so I could buy that.
I've heard different things about that side of the character relationship too, but in the stuff I've read, yeah, they are kind of at odds, and I know that bothers some people. I guess it's that thing of I've only seen it the one way, so I don't really have the context to see it the other way.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It always does feel like kind of superfluous, I guess is the word for it, and very like... It is that very comic book, you're right, Stan Lee thing of, oh, these characters have known each other since college, true believers. It's like, I remember this standalone Marvel comic where, like, Eddie Brock and Peter Parker were, like, next door neighbors at one point or some shit. I mean, like, just stop. That's just kind of the reaction I have to it. It's like, that's so unnecessary. They're setting stuff up, and then there's just stretching.
That is really funny, because then that means at one point, not only with Peter on the left side of his house, it was Eddie Brock, and on the right side of his house, it was Mary Jane.
I don't know, man. It's a weird idea. Like, I don't mind if maybe he ran into Eddie Brock once in, like, at a high school dance or some shit, and he was, like, some girl from another school's boyfriend or some shit. I don't know. But just, God, the shit with that, and that's just kind of how I feel about it. Like, really, it just makes it so awkward that they have to be related now.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like just one of those weird things that you have to get over, and it seemed like such an odd thing. And you know, really, fucking DC has no shortage of billionaires who just want to spend their life fighting crime. I don't think anyone would really bat an eye at it.
Mm-hmm. I guess there's something as well, is maybe this can tie into something, because we're talking up the whole, like, seeing the Bat as something to live up to, but something I've kind of seen not been utilized a lot in Batman comics, but I do like it when it is like him living up to the Wayne family name. Because, like, if you're being honest, even if Bruce never became Batman, he still would have been a very kingly figure, the Dark Knight, because he would have literally raised in a Gothic castle overlooking, like, a Gothic city as, like, its custodian, that's what the Waynes were. And if you have the Kanes connected to that, she kind of gets some of that baggage with it, is she has to live up to her family name, which isn't as prestigious as the Waynes, and then she's automatically feeling, I'm just the crappier version of my cousin, and she needs to overcome that. So there's some ideas you get to play with there, like by making it a family thing. You get some, like, Shakespearean stuff going, but at the same time, I don't personally, I'm in your camp where I feel like it's just needlessly shrinking the world, where, like, her job should be to expand Gotham and make it feel larger, whereas her existence being related just makes it feel smaller.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, Batman Earth 1 is is like not a classic Batman story or anything, but there are ideas I do like in it, and the idea of making Martha an Arkham as opposed to a Kane is something I can't help but love it. Because, like, okay, yeah, there's family members on the Arkham side of the family. Alfred wouldn't let that shit fly, and you know it. That would be great. So I don't know, that side of things just works better for me, and I don't need it. Like I didn't know it at first, really. I didn't know that she was legitimately related to Batman, and then when I found out, I was just like, why? I just left with so perplexed. All right, I think we're good. Let's go ahead and end and just go on to recommendations. So I'll go first and say, sorry, hiccups. I'll say DC Bombshells, the whole run. It's like 48 issues or something. It's not bad. Not bad as far as reading. It's fantastic as far as quality. Then. If you like that, Margaret Bennett did a really good run on the character in DC Rebirth. And, I guess I'll just also say the New 52 Hydrology series was okay.
Basically, yeah, I've obviously said my biggest exposure, which I really like, is Tynan's Detective Comics run. I think she's good in that, if not like as prestigious as an her solo series. I would actually recommend checking out the CW crossover thing. The CW shows are very hit and miss. A lot of the time is more miss, but I feel like she was very entertaining in that. And I'm actually think her show, after whatever they do with Crisis, could be something to look out for, because hell, it's an interesting premise. A more occult Gotham with Batman gone for unknown reasons, but all the villains are still around. So, and she's just left to protect it in his wake. I think that's kind of how she was introduced in 52. So I think maybe that's something to look out for. And I think the Greg Rucka run, I haven't read it, but fucking hell, every Batwoman fan in the world would hate us if we didn't recommend that for someone as like an introduction to her. So those would be mine. And I just also want to say, just in her favor, she has the second best female Bat family costume after Cassandra Cain's original Batgirl costume. Like the fucking red hair with like the black, but the red Bat logo and the red inside red cape. That's really cool.
Yeah, someone did a really cool image of like all the Bat family members that have done like the black with the red logo. So they had like the New 52 Nightwing, they had Batwoman, they had Red Robin, and then they had Terry McGinnis, and I was like, oh shit. That's why Batwoman's so cool. It's female Terry McGinnis.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll do it. Everyone, thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm a geek for fun.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.